So I think most people know that the number one reason why people come to a chiropractor is either neck pain, back pain, or headaches. But when it gets to that point, sometimes it's been a while. And so people come in and their next thing that they start talking about is degeneration. They start talking about herniated discs, damage to discs. They start talking about arthritis. And we really want to get to the bottom of what does that all mean and how does it happen? Does it just show up, or is it something that you can actually do something about? So we want to break that down in this episode. Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like people come in and if I'm going to tell you like, hey, you bring your car into a shop, we're going to pop the hood. I hear a clanging noise. We're going to pop the hood. You're like, is it good or is it bad news? Right. When you come into a chiropractic office, you go, I have neck pain, I have headaches. In our office, we take x-rays, we do an exam, and I think people always want to know, is it good news or bad news? And ultimately, if it's good news, it's like, no, everything looks pretty good. There's a problem here where there's pressure on a nerve. But bad news is, hey, you have something that has been going on for quite a while. There's degenerative changes. The bones don't look good. The discs don't look good. You have a herniation. You have these things that maybe even your medical doctors told you, which is why maybe you said, I don't want surgery, but I'm going to go see a chiropractor. Right. And what's actually going on?
Great call, by the way.
Yeah, good call.
I don't want surgery. Let's go see a chiropractor. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, let's spend a moment there because I think what you're trying to say is start least invasive.
Yes.
We're not saying no to surgery ever, and ever.
Sure.
I was actually reviewing, you know how you get the, what's it called on Facebook where you get like stories, things from a while back?
Oh, yeah, like memories, right?
Yeah, memories.
Yeah.
So there was a chiropractor friend of ours who's actually very big in the holistic space, and his son did a cliff jump. And he landed on a rock that he didn't see, and he collapsed a vertebra in his middle back.
Yeah.
And he had spinal surgery. And I remember the chiropractor was going, never thought I would be praying for a good spinal surgery for my kid. Yeah. You know what I mean? As a chiropractor, the one thing I try to keep my kids away from is spinal surgery. But in this instance, it was very necessary. He broke a vertebra, fractured it. And his dad was like, will you pray for my son? He's going through spinal surgery. I remember thinking that and oh, that's crazy. But that's trauma. We believe in that.
Right.
We believe that is a real space. But outside of that, I think most people, when they go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, something's wrong, their immediate isn't oh, I hope he says surgery.
Yeah. And let's be fair here. There might be some people that are in so much pain that they're trying to get, to whatever that relief is. And if your pain is high enough, you might be going, all right, surgery, I'll do it. Not that you want it, but you're like, okay, let's do it and let's do it.
Submitting.
Let's do it fast and let's get it over with and, let's
You had natural pregnancies, but you said if you were ever in a hospital and you had the opportunity to do, what is it called?
Epidural.
An epidural, you'd be like, all right, bring it on.
Yeah.
Because the pain does get that bad.
Yeah, I looked at my midwife. We were at home. I was giving birth at home, and I looked at my midwife, and I said, this is the moment I would take the epidural.
Yep.
And she laughed at me, and she was like, yeah. I get it.
Yep. So that's what we're talking about in your health. So if you come in, if your kids are getting checked, we don't expect to see degenerative changes.
Yeah.
We do sometimes. I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're coming in, you're 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, never been to a chiropractor, or sometimes maybe you have been, but nobody's ever taken an x-ray, that they've never told you about it, you've never had an MRI, you don't know what your spine looks like, what you might hear are some common terms. The ones I want to go through, and I think that we could actually break down pretty quickly, are disc degeneration, or otherwise known as degenerative disc disease. It's a misnomer. We'll talk about that. Number 2, herniation, bulge. I think people hear those a lot. They also hear the term stenosis. So stenosis, and there's 2 different forms. I think it's important to know which each is. And then the big one, and I think kind of the elusive one that nobody really understands what's going on. When we use the term, we say degeneration or decay. In the medical terminology, they frequently use the word arthritis. So going through those 4, I think those will break it down. So number 1, we got to talk about normal spinal anatomy. So I brought our buddy out here. This is 2 vertebra. These are lumbar vertebra. So we're looking at the body of the lumbar vertebra right here. We're looking at the posterior elements of the vertebra back here. So this is the bump. If you rub your hand down somebody's spine, you're feeling these bumps. They're called spinous processes. And then you got these other ones out here. They're harder to feel because you have more muscle over them, but they're called transverse processes. When we put all that together, you have a bone with a body that creates a ring on the back, and inside that ring is where your spinal cord is. In between the vertebra, you have a disc and you have a nerve. And that disc is a cushion. It's designed to absorb shock, and that's its job. And then the nerve, its job is providing life from your brain through the spinal cord to your body so all your parts work well. So when this is in the right position, the bones are protecting the nerves. That's their job. Structure, strength, but protection. The disc is providing cushion so that as we have impact, we can move, because you can see that that vertebra actually moves and that disc actually responds to it. It allows movement, shock absorption. Imagine riding around a car that had no shocks. How good would that trip down I-75 in Cincinnati feel? Around Paddock Road while they're doing construction. It would just be brutal. And so God gave you a disc to provide for shock absorption. But what that shock absorption also does is it protects the nerve that exits. So you have 2 vertebra. Let's say this one's L4 and this one's L5. It's protecting your L4 nerve. And so we're protecting that nerve. That nerve goes to something. It controls muscles. It controls organs. It controls functions in your body. Some of those L4, L5, that would be like leg movement, lower back movement, but also that nerve at L4 goes to your bladder, your prostate. It goes to your reproductive organs. If you're a female, it goes to your ovaries, and it controls all these functions.
Right.
So when we look at this, we go, what do we want? Number one, we want a couple things. We want the alignment to look like that. Straight is ideal. If the vertebra is really rotated one way or the other, it creates pressure on nerves. So if I shift this vertebra out of alignment, I can create pressure on that nerve. Number 2, in your spine, can't show you with 2 vertebra, but when you look at the whole spine, there should be curves to it. Curves are strong. They're protective to your discs and your nerves. Number 3, we want to make sure that nothing is decaying or degenerating. So how does that tend to happen? And we talk about this all the time. People come into our office and they'll say things like, I know I have some arthritis. I know I have a disc bulge. Right. I know I have degeneration. But what they haven't been told is why that's happening.
Right.
So we get to subluxation. Subluxation is a condition of a vertebra that moves out of its normal alignment, front, back, side to side, but something shifts. And so if you look at that disc, if I take this vertebra on top of that one and something shifts, I'm putting way more weight on one side of that disc than the other. I always tell my patients, imagine a water balloon in between 2 of your hands and you push on one side. What would you know would happen to that water balloon?
Oh, yeah. It's like whoosh.
Everything bulges the other side. Yep. So if that's a disc and we do this and that gets stuck there, what's going to happen? All that fluid's going to move to one side. It's going to start putting pressure on that nerve. It's going to start affecting the normal function of that vertebra. So now if we leave that there, not a day, you go into your chiropractor and he unlocks that and it starts moving better, you're probably good. A month, 2 months, 4 months go by. What happens to that disc over time?
Oh, I mean, it's just, yeah.
Simply better or worse?
Getting worse all the time.
Okay, worse means does that disc maintain its thickness and its function, or does it lose it?
It's losing it, and can it lose what's hydrating it on the inside? Yeah,
it's good. So they depend on movement, and that fluid in that disc actually goes in and out of that disc. It's not like we refer to it kind of like a sponge, but it's not so immediate. It takes a longer period of time. So on a sponge, you could squeeze it, all the fluid goes out. Thank God you're not designed that way.
Right.
But it's similar to that over time, it can pull fluid in,
right.
And over time, it can let fluid out. So that disc, if there's pressure on it, if that was a sponge, and you're putting pressure like that, would it go in or out? It would go out. And so over time, people start losing disc height. Now, that is technically disc degeneration over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the medical field looks at that and they look through the lens of disease. So they go, oh, you have a disease process.
Right.
And technically, if it's one disc, they don't call it this, but if it's more than one, if it's 2, 3 in a row, then they tell you have DDD, degenerative disc disease. You have multiple discs, they're all degenerating, but nobody goes, why?
Right.
Why are they degenerating? They don't talk about this. They don't talk about the curves. They just look at the disc and go, wow, that's a degenerative disc. It would be like my kid running up to me and going, Dad, something's wrong, and he's got blood coming out of his nose. And I'm like, oh, you have a bloody nose. But I don't ask, did somebody hit you? Did you fall? Like, what happened?
Right.
As a chiropractor, we're going, yeah, you have the bloody nose. You have the degenerative disc, but what's going on? What's happening? Why did you get there? How did this happen? And that's where we're looking at the actual structure and function and movement of that.
Right, which is really interesting because I think that there's a lot of just when you talk about the way that the medical model in general looks at disc degeneration, looks at your spine, looks at your life. There's so many things that just sort of pop into mind in this, and it's very like the way that we view things is very different, just different. We have a different viewpoint, we have a different philosophy, we have a different heart behind what we're doing in general. And what's interesting about that is that because of that, like we'll have patients that come in and we'll walk them through this and they're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Why hasn't anybody ever taught me this before? I've been to 13 different medical doctors to look at this condition or look at what's going on here. Why didn't anybody ever tell me this? And really the difference is exactly what you're saying. It's the point of view. It's the lens at which we see things, the lens at which through which we've been educated, the lens at which that we have had patient. I mean, here's the thing: there's not a medical doctor on planet Earth who's been adjusting patients for years and seen the results that we've seen to understand what happens, like what goes on, how it happens. So there's not an instance where you're going to find. And listen, is there maybe an MD who also has a DC license who's been adjusting patients for years? Maybe. That might be the one outlier to that example.
Or DOs back in the day.
Right. But really, even with the specificity of what we're doing and the lens at which we're trained to do it, it's such a different thing. And it's like going and saying, why didn't my foot specialist tell me that this was going on with my nose or whatever it is? Like it's just we're not in the same things. Like we're not studying, we don't look through the same lens. We're not studying the same things. Which we've had this discussion many times. That's why it's so critical the person that you go to. If your first point of contact, there's been research on if your first point of contact after an injury or if you're trying to get help for your back pain or whatever that is, something that's going on with your spine, something that's going on in your body, if your first point of contact is someone who's trained in the traditional medical model, then the issues that arise from that are exponential because the lens at which they're viewing things from, the answers that they're going to be giving you, and the things that they're going to be, the tools in their toolbox that they're going to use to be able to help you are going to be drastically different than someone who's trained the way that you are. There's not a traditional medical person who's going to be able to go in there and remove that pressure off the spine to be able to get your nervous system functioning. That's why it's so critical. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think about where we start from. So I think in medicine, it's like everyone should come in, and we've talked about this. The ideology of medicine is you're going to break down. Yeah. You're going to break down. Parts are going to go wrong. Yeah. So you come in and your MD essentially is like, supposed to be the master diagnostician who looks and goes, okay, what part's breaking down, and then who do I send you to? Right. Or do we just need to check your fluids? Right. You know what I mean? And if I don't understand, I'll just say it's genetics. Yeah. You just got a genetically bad spine. You just got genetic. It's just genetics is like a code for I actually really don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Right. Yeah. Right. Genetics. Bad luck. Bad luck. Yeah. Bad chance. But I think the difference in chiropractic is we actually start with a premise, and the premise is you're not built to break down. Don't get me wrong, none of us make it out of this life alive. I talk about that all the time. We're meant to live roughly 100 years-ish. That's currently the model we're under, and so how do we keep it healthy as long as possible? We believe that you're actually designed to be healthy the whole time, and then it goes back to what controls that.
And if we look at what controls that, the reason as chiropractors, we start with your nervous system, where you go, all right, going to a GP, at least they're looking at the whole body. They're looking at the whole body. And as a chiropractor, I go, we're looking at the whole body too, but we're looking at it through the lens of what is in control. And I think that's what sets the difference. So when we talk about disc degeneration, they're not meant to deteriorate, especially at a rapid rate. And if you look at your spine, I've had people come in and they're like, oh my gosh, my doctor said I had L3-4 degeneration. It's bad. And, he said, I asked him what it was. He goes, oh, you're 50, right? Like, it's old age.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing is we take an x-ray and we go, wait a minute, L3, 2, 1, T12, they look good. How old are those? Right. Like, these are 50. How old are these?
Right.
And then they go,
like different vertebrae in your spine.
Yeah, they're like,
years. Yeah.
Oh, well, they're all 50, so why are those degenerates? All right, now we're asking the right question. Why is that happening? So, number one, when it comes to degenerative changes, we'll repeat this when it comes to arthritis, movement is key. Your spine likes movement. The joints like movement, whether it's your elbow, your knee, your ankle, your spine, anything, it wants to move, and it wants to move well. This is why people spend money on stretching, yoga, going to places like Stretch Lab or PT or anything. Right. But chiropractors are specifically trained to adjust the vertebra and the spine, which is arguably one of the hardest things. It's the deepest, it's the most inside of you, and it has the biggest relationship with your nervous system. So number one, movement. Number two, alignment. Straight is the goal. Number three, curves. And when all those three work together, we don't see these individual discs or one or two or three in a row break down before others. So degeneration was a big one.
Right. And alongside of that, what you're talking about, I think it's really key to talk about here. Like, this is where this idea comes into play that every single person should be under regular chiropractic care for the rest of their lives, for their entire lives, from birth until death, every single person. And it's critical, not because as chiropractors, we're like, we just want to see every single person every single day from the day that they're born until the day they die.
I want to see them all.
Yeah, but that's not the old, that's not, it's just not because we like that. It's because we understand inherently what's going on, that it requires movement.
Yep.
Your spine requires very specific movement, and if you go long enough, if you're one of those people, and it's where we get crushed in the heart, we get heartbreak when we see somebody come in and we make some beautiful spinal corrections. Maybe they were in pain and that's why they came in, and then they get out of pain and we got some great spinal correction going. Yeah. We got movement in there. We're making progress. We just push that snowball. We're like pushing it. We're getting it up to the top of the hill, and then they're like, I feel really good. I'm good. I'm not coming in anymore. And I'll see you next time I'm in pain. And that is crushing because we understand what's happening on the inside. We understand that this requires movement. We understand that there's going to have to be a rhythm to this for the rest of our patients' lives. Every single person. Should I get my kids checked? Yes, absolutely. Because you want your kids to have a spine that's moving, that the nervous system's regulated, that there's not pressure on it, that they're not having spinal degeneration and not going to end up with all these issues at the end of their life. Mm-hmm. We want that for your kids. We want that for your parents. We want that for your grandparents. We want that for your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your coworkers, everybody. We want that for everybody because we know how crucial it is to the function of your life in general.
Life is generally stressful on our spines, on our bodies, on our nervous systems. Life can be stressful. I mean, don't get me wrong. Life's beautiful. I believe that. I saw the movie, Roberto Benigni. Yeah. I believe life is beautiful. Yeah. But life is also stressful. So when you go to a dentist, if you haven't been there in 20 or 30 years, the dentist goes, oh, you have all these problems. We're going to fix these. We're going to help you out. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then you're like, I'll never go to a dentist again after that. It doesn't make any sense. Once you get it, you should get it. I use the example of changing the oil in your car, brushing your teeth, these things that what they're a sign of is how much you value the thing you're taking care of. So we talked about degeneration. That is just common stress. Over time, we lose our function. The discs break down, the bones break down. Now, there's another thing that can happen, and this sometimes goes with that, is we can have bulging or herniations. And these are typically involved with trauma, but they don't have to be. So if you're in a car accident and there's a seatbelt here in your whole body, boom, everything goes forward. The seatbelt could be stopping that vertebra, but that vertebra could go forward,
Yeah.
and then we're going to cause damage. And then what happens is when we go through accidents, trauma, like I sprained my ankle, probably tore something. When you go through a car accident or whatever, you hear about herniation. What that means is you tore something. You don't tear bones typically. That's called a fracture.
Right.
But if you tear the disc, and that disc may have already been deteriorating. That disc could be healthy, that disc could be unhealthy, but if you tear that disc, then what happens, this model is really funny. Kids love to play with these in our office, and we break them probably on a weekly basis because when you do this, here's the fun part. When you squeeze down the vertebra, you'll see a balloon pop out, and that little bubble represents a herniation. So what happens is there's a weak part. In this situation, there's fabric around here to keep it strong, but back here, this represents a tear. There's no fabric. So when I push down that weakness, it doesn't bulge out here. It can't. If I push down, it doesn't. But if I push back here, it bulges out. Why? Because there's no fabric there creating that fibrous connection. So that bulge, if you look where it goes, and I love bringing this out. We haven't done this before on camera, but I love it on camera because if you go like this and you bulge it out, it actually puts pressure on that nerve. So somebody goes, I have a disc bulge. I have a disc bulge. And I go, yeah, you have a disc bulge, but did the doctor talk to you about why that's creating pain? And they just think, I want that bulge to get better. I want that bulge to get better. I want that bulge to get better too. But that bulge is actually injuring a nerve. Now, if that injures a nerve, imagine you dropped an anvil, like Wile E. Coyote style, on your toe. If you pick up the anvil, how does your toe feel?
I mean, relief, but it's not gonna like magically not feel amazing all of a sudden. Like you got a little bit of relief, but you're still gonna have the pain, the after effects of like your toe.
I slam my hand in a door. Just because I open the door doesn't mean my hand feels better.
Right.
Yeah, relief. We address the issue, but now you have to heal.
Yeah.
And so when that bulge happens, and typically this is somebody who has damaged discs and they've been living with it, they don't know, they've created a weakness, maybe there is a tear, it's asymptomatic, and then they bend over to pick up a pen or a pencil or a piece of paper or put the leash on the dog or unload the dishwasher or lean forward to brush their teeth. Like I've heard everything. I mean, I can't even tell you, like people are like, this is so dumb. How'd you injure your back? I was combing my hair. I was brushing my teeth. I was putting a dish in the dishwasher. Well, typically, it's not like, oh, you won't believe this. I've never worked out a day in my life, and I was deadlifting 700 pounds. That's not what I hear. What I hear is, it was nothing. It was literally nothing. What that tells me is there was already damage. There were already tears. The degenerative changes we were talking about were already occurring. And then all of a sudden, boom, that weakness is exposed, that nerve is injured, that nerve might be going down your arm and your hands and fingers, it might be going up into your head, creating headaches, it might be going down into your back and leg, creating sciatica, but once that bulge happens, that nerve is damaged, and then you go to the doctor and they go, oh, you have a disc bulge. And their answer medically, and I'll give them credit at this, they're looking at the bulge, is they're gonna go in and they're gonna cut away that and create scar tissue so that that bulge isn't there. But the bulge wasn't what caused the problem. The alignment, the structure, and the movement of the vertebra is what caused it to break down and get weak. So if that bulge happened and that weakness was occurring and you don't correct the alignment or the curves in your spine, over time, that bulge may go away because they cut it away. But is it likely to spontaneously regenerate and get better movement-wise and function-wise, or is it likely to probably keep coming back depending on your habits?
Right. And imagine, like, it's such a funny thing to me because it's like, imagine looking at that. Like, if you're looking at it.
You can touch it too.
If you're looking at, I don't know how to do it like you do it, but if you're looking at what a bulge is, if you're looking at that, imagine looking at that and then saying, here's what we're going to do. No more loading the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Because it
gets
causes,
really restrictive.
Because it causes bulges. Or just no more using your hands.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because that's how you got to disc
Don't lift over your head.
Don't lift over your head. Don't whatever it is. And then we're gonna cut it away. And then this is just gonna kind of be what life looks like from now on. And it might feel better. but then over the next few years, it might start to get a little bit worse again, because we never addressed what was going on. And I know people in the holistic world right now love to say root cause. If I never hear the word root cause again, it would be not a day too soon, because that's actually root cause. That's actually what it means. Like we're actually getting to the bottom of it, because we're saying this is what caused that bulge in the first place. And so let's remove that. Why are you going to walk around with the anvil still on your leg? Why are you going to dance around and create all these other scenarios to accommodate an anvil sitting on your foot when you just need to take the anvil off and let the foot heal? That's how silly it is.
And I think I jumped right to surgery, which actually that's usually the last step. But before that is we'll stick a needle in there. Well, actually before that, just take codeine. Take an over-the-counter, take a prescribed, whatever, just decrease the inflammation. Yeah, it feels better because chemically the inflammation goes down. The bulge might retract a little bit, but the problem's still there. And as soon as that anti-inflammatory wears off, this actually sometimes will go boom and get bigger, because it's like counteracting what's happening, because your body's intelligent and it's actually trying to protect itself. Number two, they'll take that instead of over-the-counter pill form in the mouth, they'll actually take it and inject it right in there. They'll put an injection right in there, and it will decrease the inflammation. Don't get me wrong. If you're lucky, you will feel good. You might feel good for 2, 3, 4 weeks, but it doesn't change whether that vertebra is in good alignment and or moving properly. So does that usually come back? Yeah, most of the time it actually does, which is why they'll schedule you for a follow-up and another injection. If you fail 2 or 3 of them, then they go, all right, that's not it. So now we're going to do surgery, and then surgery typically is cutting away, trying to make space. Make space for what? Again, going back to the nerve. Make space for the nerve. And they'll cut away things, but then eventually if it gets bad enough, they'll say, we've cut away stuff, we made space for the nerve, it's not healing. So what we're going to do so you don't get worse is we're going to fuse everything together so it can't move anymore. And where you're at, and they don't tell you this, when you sign off on the paperwork, you go, I'm going in for back surgery. We're going to fuse 2 vertebrae. And you're like, okay. And the goal is like, I feel bad. I want to feel better. But when you go in, they're not telling you like, no. That your goal is feel better. Our goal is you don't get worse. Those are 2 different things. So when they fuse it, all they're saying is, we're done. We can't help you anymore. Our goal is to try to keep it from getting worse. So we're going to fuse it, but be okay with how you feel right now.
Right. And what did we say needs to happen in this instance? Movement. It needs movement. So
movement and structure.
It is literally just it is the antithesis of what really needs to happen in this. And so another way when a dagger right in the heart when a patient is saying, this is the issue that I have and this is the solution that we're doing, we're going to fuse this vertebrae together. It's like, oh my gosh, we're taking the anvil that's sitting on the foot and we're like building a house around it, and we're saying like this is here for good, and we're super gluing it to the foot, and we're saying we're never taking it off. Like this is what we're at.
Super glued. Again, sounds like a Wile E. Coyote episode. It's like not only the anvil dropping his foot, but the Roadrunner put super glue on the bottom of it so he couldn't get it off his foot,
so you
right?
Can't get it off. Yeah.
The 2 last things, and one of them is quick, is stenosis. Like this is a term I hear all the time, and people are like, "Oh, I have stenosis." Okay, cool. What is stenosis? And they're like, "I don't know, but I have it. My doctor told me I have it." So
it sounds bad.
Here's what stenosis means. You have vertebra, 24 of them. They make up a canal. So if I took my fingers, I made a circle out of this finger, circle out of this finger, and those line up, there's a canal. So 1 circle is just a circle. 2 circles now creates a canal, a pathway. You have 24 circles. Right here. Here's your spinal cord. Goes through those circles. If those circles don't line up, the canal gets smaller. Each one of those circles is still exactly the same size. Right. But when they don't line up, that gets smaller. You can do it at home. It's really fun. Just look through there. Go like this. You'll see the canal gets smaller. Now your spinal cord's in there. So when one vertebra is lined up over another, if this one goes forward, backward, left, right, rotates, the canal gets smaller. That's your spinal cord. That's called spinal stenosis. You also have these exits on the side of your spine. They're called lateral recesses, and nerves come out of there. So if that vertebra tips to the right or rotates left, it can close off the nerve. So that's called lateral recess stenosis. The stenosing factor is the effect. The vertebra out of alignment is the cause. So when people say, I have stenosis, I'm like, okay, that means you are subluxated.
Yeah.
So we adjust the subluxation. The stenosis doesn't get better immediately. That hole doesn't go from this to this quickly. But what happens sometimes is we get it moving enough to where the nerve is less agitated. And sometimes on day 1, day 2, day 3, a couple adjustments in, people are like, I'm already feeling relief because that nerve isn't just being smashed and now is getting a little bit of relief off that, right? Over time, what do we want to do? We want to get the structure to change, the shape to change, the alignment to change so that those holes open up because the vertebrae are in a more normal position. So that's stenosis.
I don't know the answer to this. So I'm trying to put my brain in this position where I was thinking, if I had to think of a totally ridiculous way to treat stenosis.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite of what I know to be correct, like with what you're saying with movement and the body healing and the body working with it.
It's good.
Then I would. My guess is that I would say, oh, we should go in and cut out this hole so that it's bigger. Mm-hmm. Is that? Please don't tell me that anybody thinks that that's the way that we.
It's pretty much what they do.
Should treat stenosis.
They take a glorified Dremel and they go into that hole. Around the spinal cord, it's definitely risky. On these lateral ones, they do it very frequently. They go in with like a glorified Dremel and they start shaving away part of the vertebra to try to create a bigger space because God gave you too small of a space. We know that's not true.
Yeah, no.
The vertebra is out of alignment. The space is smaller. So they go, we're going to cut away part of the back of this vertebra. We're going to create space. Again, from a structural standpoint, at least they got part of it right. But it's not working with your body. It's kind of working against the design. And we would say if there's an opportunity to work with it, do that first, surgically last, because we'll get to the last part here, which is like arthritis. But the other one is spinal cord. Spinal cord, sometimes what they'll do is they'll actually cut away part of the vertebra and they'll detach part of the vertebra from the other part of the vertebra, and they'll actually open up space and expand it out. Sometimes they'll even put screws or brackets in, and they'll open up that space and then screw it back together.
Oh my gosh.
So now not only do you have to heal from the original damage to the nerve, but now you have to heal also from the surgery. You have brackets in there, screws in there. It's complicated. So go ahead.
Sorry, and I want to let you get to the last point, but I think one thing that is really, really crucial to say here is that I don't know everything. Sometimes I don't feel like I know anything about anything, but I don't know everything about. I don't know everything about the body and the health and how it works. Yep. But I do. There are certain litmus tests that I can kind of like. Is that right or wrong? Mm-hmm. Like, is that And this is a great example of that. Is that when I am interacting with a healthcare professional, or even if it's not a healthcare professional, if I'm just sort of trying to figure out like what is right and what is wrong. Yeah. Anytime somebody feeds me a line that says you weren't created right, your body just is a mess, your body doesn't know what's going on, you were just made wrong, you were born wrong, you had this genetic thing, there's something that is like, nope, I don't. I disagree. And I'm not saying that there's not congenial abnormalities. Like I'm not denying the existence of those altogether, but I'm just saying that there's a general litmus test that I have that when I hear that in relation to a condition or a health challenge or something that I'm going through, my gut instinct is where I go, I don't think that
your lungs work, your heart works, your thyroid works, your salivary glands work, your big toe works, your middle finger works, your big finger works, your thumb works, everything works. Your L3, God gave you a bad L3.
Just a bad one.
Genetically, your L3 is deteriorating. It's like,
somehow it worked for this amount of time, but then suddenly at 47 years old or at 52 years old.
And it's not to say that your L3 isn't bad.
Right.
But why?
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 Yeah.
And we're not going to blame it on bad luck, chance, God, bad genetics. We're going to go, is there, what set it up? What would it look like to have a healthy L3? What would it look like to have a healthy gallbladder? What would it look like to have a healthy thyroid? And then where's the difference between where I'm at? Right? What does a thyroid need? What does a good L3 vertebra need? What does a good big toe need? And then where am I at? Right?
Right. And I'm not even going to talk about, like, I won't even dive into the spiritual implications of doctors continually tell patients that God made you wrong. Like, that's a subject that's way too heavy for this.
And I think it's actually exclusive mostly to Western medicine. I think Eastern medicine actually goes, no, you're vibrant. Right? Because they talk about energy. They talk about, like, you're vibrant, you're healthy, it's energy flow. We talked a couple weeks ago, I got acupuncture, and I was asking the lady, I'm like, how does it work? You put needles in, you're stimulating pathways. She's like, it's all energy. It's energy flow. Like, your body wants to heal its life. And I'm like, okay, I like that. I subscribe to it. I believe it.
Goes, yes, I agree. I believe in that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But we get these medical doctors in white coats who are like, oh, you have bad L3. And they can show it to you on x-ray. As a chiropractor, I can show it to you on x-ray. The difference is I go, why? Why is it like that?
Yeah.
And so that's the number one thing I tell people. Go ask your doctor, why? Why is my disc bulge? Why is it herniated? Why L3? Why not L2? And they go, oh, you need surgery. What if I didn't do surgery? What would your next recommendation be? What things? So say you do surgery, I still need to heal. What would you recommend that I do to heal after? What if I did that now?
Yeah.
What if I did that now?
Yeah.
So long story. We go to the end, skip to the end, is then it's degeneration. So when we talk about degeneration, I have changed that vocabulary. So when I talk to patients, I say decay. And the reason I say decay is because people get it. They understand your teeth decay.
Right.
So if you look up spinal decay, you're not going to get as many hits as spinal degeneration. Degeneration's the term.
Right.
People don't largely understand what that means. So I use decay because that's something people get. It breaks down over time.
Right.
Why does it break down? What did we talk about? It needs movement, right? It needs alignment. And then, again, I can't show you this one, but in the curves of the spine. So it needs the structure. When I talk about structure, I'm talking about curves, alignment, straight, and then movement. When you have a loss of movement, the natural tendency for the body when something stops moving is initially it feels uncomfortable and you try to stretch and you want to get it moving. But if it's locked and it's not going to move, without a chiropractor, without somebody putting in an external force, you yourself can't get it moving. When that's stuck, your body goes, it's not changing, let's lock it down.
Yeah.
Let's protect that. It's not even protecting that nerve that might be damaged. Let's protect the other nerves above and below. Let's lock this down so that we keep the damage to one area. Mm-hmm. So that's movement. Number 2, structure. When the curves aren't healthy, then load is distributed differently. I could do a whole episode on this. I'll just say, think of a bridge with a curve. The curve is there to support load. You have curves in your spine. They're there to support load. If you're missing a curve or too much of a curve, the load falls in areas abnormally. So you have 24 vertebra. If the curves are there, they're all under the amount of load they should be. It's equally distributed. When you lose a curve, certain vertebra, so this goes back to YL3, YC5, because there's a missing curve and we can usually point to where gravity is affecting that and what's deteriorating that. Those are curves and structure. Last is alignment. If the alignment's out, then we also have a problem where there's more pressure on one side than the other. Now, over time, what happens? The body's natural response to an uncorrected problem is to try to preserve everything else. And so what it starts to do, degeneration in the spine looks like more calcification, more deterioration, more arthritis, more fixed, more rigid, less movement. As we age, people feel, you guys feel it, as we age, it's harder. It's harder to keep moving unless you work at it. And so what we tell patients is if you want to avoid degenerative changes, decaying in your spine, you want to start getting adjusted on a regular basis, because it's not just about your movement. Your movement is important. Again, I injured my foot. I realized how important movement is. It affects other areas. It affects how much I can do, and it affected my energy at the end of the day. But what I also know is that inside of my spine is a spinal cord and spinal nerves that control every function of my body, my heart rate, my breathing, everything, my immune system, my emotions. All of this is regulated through my nervous system. I don't have a spinal cord in my toe. My toe can be uncomfortable, it might not move, but it's not affecting my heart.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the spine, as chiropractors, the reason we pay so much attention to it and the reason we're so concerned is we know the effects it can have on everything. So those are the big ones. I think those are some things that we help people to uncover on a weekly basis. If you guys have more questions, reach out to us. You can reach us going through our website at alignhealthcenter.com. You can contact us via email on that website. You can also give us a call. We'd love to see you as a patient. If you're not in our area, we'll help you find a chiropractor. But other than that, I think our goal is just to continue helping you guys understand your health, your spine, and your nervous system better.